Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome back to our very first show of 2021 here at the Leches Sports podcast. I'm Gilly Matos, as always, joined by my friends, my colegas, Uri Berenguer, longtime baseball announcer. How you doing, Yuri?
I'm all right, Gil, man. I'm not as happy as James Harden is tonight, but I'm all right. I actually won $15 in scratch tickets, so I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right.
You guys are around the same budget there. And Omar Cabrera, reporter for the New England Patriots and New England Revolution. How you doing, O?
Senores, man, it's great to be back in the new year, man. Excited about the new year and always exciting to be with you guys every week. So let's get it going.
So can we call you the COVID kid? Did you like that nickname? Since you're the one giving the updates to the media, and stuff. Is that accurate?
You can say it. People might confuse me with Cobra Kai too, but you can say it.
COVID kid. COVID kid. I like it.
As always, the Leches Sports podcast, bringing you three hot topics in the world of sports. And as always, as well, brought to you in conjunction with El Mundo Boston. And let's get right at it, guys. You mentioned James Harden, Yuri. James Harden finally got what he wanted. The reigning three-time NBA scoring champ forced his way out of Houston, and the Rockets and Nets completed a blockbuster four-team trade that sent the seven-time All-NBA guard to Brooklyn, where he will team up with superstars Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to form what is arguably, guys, the most formidable big three since Steph, Clay, KD, and those Warriors. Yuri, let's start off with you. The Nets gave up a lot to acquire Harden in this championship or bust move. In your opinion, does this trade bring them to a title?
Dude, if I could answer that, I wouldn't be sitting here with you guys. I wouldn't be talking about this stuff with you guys. If I could tell you if it will not, I can tell you that it absolutely can. I mean, the reality is, just all you got to do is, if I can, answer your question with another question. How often does an NBA team, or any team for that matter, in any sport, get the chance to acquire an MVP after the season has already started? How often does that happen? The answer is it doesn't happen, guys. And MVP type players are not readily available, are not trade pieces more often than not, especially not just 2 weeks into a season. So can it result in another championship, or in a championship rather, for the Nets? Absolutely. Like you mentioned, the one of the most formidable trios in a long since the Oklahoma Thunder, City Thunder. But we go back to all the big three, the big three in Boston. We go back, we go to Miami with a long time ago with Dwayne and Shaq. We go to the great Kobe and Shaq. This is what happens in the NBA. We've talked about it so much. There isn't any sport that is so influenced by two or three, in this matter, players, as much as the NBA is. And guys, let's keep this in mind as well. What James Harden was doing in Houston was just tearing that team apart, was tearing that organization apart. For him to get to the Nets and now join forces with two other MVP-like players is pretty impressive. And I think about the type of player that he is, and the comparison that we've made to him and Manny Ramirez in the past. I got to go back to Manny Ramirez. I was around when Manny wanted to get traded by the Red Sox. I was around for that 2008 season. And what Manny Ramirez did for the Red Sox in 100 games was blown out of the water with what he did for the Dodgers in 62 games. I got the numbers here, guys. In that 2008 season, Ramirez hit in 100 games for the Red Sox. He hit 299. In 53 games for the Dodgers, he hit 396. He hits 20 home runs in 100 games for the Sox. He hit 17 home runs in 53 games for the Dodgers. I mean, it just made him, it revitalized him. It made him happy. Simple as that. And unfortunately, we live in an era of sports where you got to coddle these guys. And if you do, you may just win the lottery.
Well, and in the NBA more than any other league, because those guys, obviously 1 of 5 on the court, and those guys have more say in not only in the impact and the influence of the game, but also in the league as well. Omar, the Golden State Warriors were very unstoppable with Durant, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson, and it was very much because all three can function very well off the ball. How do you see Harden, Irving, Durant functioning this way? Because it's something, quite honestly, that Harden has never been asked to do, and something that Kyrie doesn't really like doing, period. How do you see this working in Brooklyn for these guys? And do you think they have a shot at taking the NBA and taking the title away from the Lakers?
Gil, that's the big question mark. Can they make it work? And I'm not even talking about egos here. I'm talking about exactly what you mentioned. Can they make it work as a team? They're all the type of players that they command the ball in order to be so successful, right? What are they gonna do? Are they gonna play with three basketballs at the same time? And of course not. So you know what? What's gonna happen? Who's gonna have the biggest ego? Who's gonna want to take the last shot when it comes to being, to the last minute, taking the last shot? And there's gonna be problems. We already know the problems that Kyrie caused in Boston. Everybody knows about that.
He's
But
causing in Brooklyn right
that
now.
remains to be seen. And me personally, yeah, exactly. And that's just beginning right now. But you know what, Gil? Honestly, on paper, it looks like the Nets struck gold because they have the new big three now. But I think the real big winners right now are the Houston Rockets for many reasons. One of them, they got rid of a big migraine headache. Second, they got 8 picks. And third, they got Oladipo. I know he's not back from that injury that we saw 2 years ago before he got injured when he was playing at an all-star level. But if they can get that player back, Houston's still gonna have a good team and they have a good future ahead. So to me, they're the big winners because of what they got rid of a player who didn't want to be there, who's not in shape right now. You guys seen pictures, you've seen videos of Harden. He does not look like he's in great shape right now. So I
No.
really think that right. So there you go. I just think that the Nets probably gave up too much. I feel like they haven't learned the lesson from giving up too much to the Celtics when they got Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, and now they're making another big mistake again.
I mean, I think this is something they had to do though, because if you the minute you signed Kyrie and you signed Durant, you went pretty much all in, right? So you have to compliment those guys and kind of assure that you're going to take advantage of their prime. And so I get it. I understand why they did it. It's kind of crazy that Houston owns Brooklyn's draft capital, through 2027. It's 8 first-round picks in total because Houston has the opportunity to swap unprotected first-round picks with them all the way through 2027, which is kind of crazy. But despite all that, though, I don't think Houston was the big winner here, and I tell you why. I mean, first of all, it sucks when you have to lose the face of your franchise, even though if the guy was a cancer or everything else, it sucks, And it's the move they absolutely had to do. But I wouldn't necessarily call them winners for doing it because, they had to do it. They got the draft picks back, so that makes it a little better. The part I don't get, guys, is why do they trade Karis LeVert for Oladipo? LeVert is 2 years younger, doesn't have the injury history he does, and he's up for contract coming up as well. And then they trade Jared Allen for a Milwaukee first-round pick that is going to be a late first-round pick. So, I don't understand. Jared Allen is 22 years old. He's a good big man that they could have stepped right into the rotation there. So I think they gave assets away and didn't really receive much in return. Oladipo could be gone next year. But in terms of the Nets, guys, this is going to be interesting, huh? I mean, Kyrie Irving is the biggest diva in all of sports, I think. A guy who, he's just insufferable. He can go sage himself for all I'm concerned. But he's a guy that's already causing problems over there. And a guy who just went away from the team without telling him where he was going, what he was doing, obviously spotted at a party afterwards and all this stuff. So is it going to work with those three guys?
This has to be a new year. This has to be 2021 because as much as it pains me or I feel kind of odd saying this, I got to agree with Omar on this one. I think you are completely underselling or not appreciating Victor Oladipo. I mean, yes, he's coming back from an injury, and yes, he may be a free agent next year. But I think we were discussing this early on today. Houston's going to have the money available now to offer him a contract. And now he's got the opportunity to be a big dog in a small pond rather than a small fish in a big ocean. I really think that you're underselling Victor Oladipo. I really do. I agree with Omar that the Rockets are absolutely big winners because they were being destroyed. They were being eaten up from the inside out by James Harden, and it was just going to end in disaster. I mean, look what he did in the press conference, after the Lakers embarrassed them. He embarrassed his teammates further, even more. Embarrassed them by making them sound like they were nothing but bums. Not only embarrassed them, he insulted his teammates. And you can't have that in a locker room, Mo.
No, and since you're agreeing with me, one thing that you said earlier, and you were talking about the other big three from the past, and I gotta agree with that. The reason why some of those big three work, all of them work. With the Celtics, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Garnett, and then you're talking about LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and D-Wade. It worked because at least one of them was willing to sacrifice, stats and personal glory for for being able to win a championship. That's what those teams accomplished, and that's why they were champions. In this case, I really don't see. Maybe KD, because he already won a championship, but the other two guys, I don't really see them sacrificing too much. Huh?
Oh yeah, you're right. Irving had to do with LeBron. Kyrie Irving had to do with LeBron, so I don't see why not. I don't see why not.
That was
like Gil said.
That was a very young Kyrie, and that it's easy to defer to somebody when you're in your second, third year in the league. I think now he sees himself as an elder statesman in the league. He's the VP of the Players Union. He's a guy who definitely needs the ball in his hand. Harden had over between 33 and 40% usage rate on that Houston team. That means the ball's in his hand for 40% of the game. That is insane. So
he didn't have a Kyrie Irving. He didn't have a KD next to him. He had to. And I think these guys understand this.
I don't buy that.
This is not the first big three formed in the NBA. This isn't the first. They're not reinventing the wheel. It's been done.
I don't buy that. You're telling me Harden didn't play with any talent. So Chris Paul's not talented. Russell Westbrook's not talented. That's his style of game. That's all it is. And I don't think that KD should be the one that's deferring anything. KD is the best player on the planet, arguably. So to say that he should be the one deferring stuff, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting thing to see how this plays out over there. But the way it's starting with Kyrie and everything, and the concern there, and I don't know if you guys heard what I said earlier because my connection is not that great, but Woj's tweet he made a reference to if something so they made this move in case something. Harry, what does that mean? If you're a Brooklyn fan, that's scary.
In case Kyrie, we talked about this. I think I mentioned it. Kyrie Irving has been quoted as considering, or apparently people close to him have said that he is considering, and he said that he would sit out the season if need be. So either way, the Nets are really just being progressive. They're making sure that they are prepared for the worst.
And guys, one important point we haven't brought up is also remember, these guys can score a bunch of points. But now that means that we're gonna have a starting five where two guys can defend or they don't like to defend. You know what? That's also a big hole right there. You know what? Yeah, they might be able to score a lot of points, but that means they definitely have to score a lot of points because they're not gonna be stopping that many people either. So that's another thing to keep in mind, and that's why I don't see this working that well.
Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs didn't have a great defense either.
You're gonna play KD. You're gonna play KD at center. Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, all those guys are licking their chops right now.
I can't believe you're questioning whether or not this can work out. Are you serious? You're acting like this has never been done. I don't know. I guess we'll agree to disagree.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of excited. I want to see what happens. I really want to see what happens. So let's see if Kyrie even plays this season. So, but anyways, guys, well, moving on, we're only into the second month of the season, but the NBA is already having some problems due to COVID infections and protocols. Just this week alone, we had about 6 games being canceled, including 3 of them for the Boston Celtics back to back. Is it time for the NBA to start considering playing in the bubble again, Gil? What can the league do to right this ship?
Man, this is tough, man. And I think, it is something that they were expecting to happen, obviously, because they're looking at what happened with MLB. They're looking at what happened with the NFL as well and the problems they had, right? So it's kind of, they expected this. They did make new rules now saying that when they're in their home market, players are not required to remain in their house, only can attend team activities and take care of their essential needs for the next 2 weeks. When they're on the road, they can't leave their hotel rooms or invite guests in. So they're trying to make stricter guidelines. They're obviously saying they have to wear masks on the bench as well and no hugs, all this other stuff that, guys, let's be honest. This is like, what's the saying? You're trying to tapar el sol con un dedo. You're trying to cover the sun with a finger. There's no stopping this. Nobody's been able to stop this anywhere. There's no stopping it. You kind of just have to go with it. And, unfortunately for the NBA, it's coinciding with the worst numbers that we've seen in nationwide in terms of like 4,000 deaths per day for the first time ever. So it's coinciding with all that. And the other thing that they're dealing with too is, players that kind of are reluctant to play. Take Karl-Anthony Towns, for example. His mom died in April of COVID. He's had 7 family members die of COVID. So, somebody like that, do you really want to go through this? So, there's no question they're going to go through it because obviously the collective bargaining agreement, the salary cap, the amount of money they can make, the owners, the players, everybody else are going to go on with it. But I don't see the bubble as a viable option, Omar. I think it drove a lot of people crazy to do that for that short amount of time, and to carry out the rest of the regular season and the playoffs in a bubble. I don't think the players are going to agree to that. And I've heard a lot of different podcasts and interviews with players that went through it and how tough it was on them, particularly those that are very close to their family and couldn't see their kids, couldn't see their spouses. I don't see the players agreeing to that again. I just see the NBA kind of trucking along with it and seeing how it goes.
Yeah, we definitely all knew this was going to be a problem. Not easy to control it as it was in the bubble, right? Like you mentioned, MLB, NFL, and the MLS, they all had their problems, but somehow they managed to pull through and finish their seasons, right? I personally think that what they need to do is expand the rosters to maybe about 20 players per team, 20, 25. That way they will always have enough players to choose from, just in case they don't have enough, just in case a lot of players get sick or because protocols they can't play, at least they have enough players to dress up for each game. That's my opinion. Yuri, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know how much you expand the rosters. I mean, how much of it will be a watered down product. I don't know. Luckily, this is one of the few times where I don't envy being a professional basketball player, or for that matter, or especially not envy any of the coaches, any of the team owners. I definitely do not envy Adam Silver, who has done a great job through this whole COVID-19 thing. But now finally the NBA is being welcomed to a club that they did not want to be part of, a club that they had avoided, the club of being a sports league that has to face head on with COVID-19. And now, obviously, guys, the league knew that it couldn't escape, with a clean record the way it did in Orlando. Because yes, the bubble was a huge success, but like Gil just mentioned, not for everyone. It wasn't for everyone. I mean, there were some issues. There were no COVID-19 problems or yes, correct, patients or anything. But there were a lot of players who since then have expressed their discontent. I mean, and think about the guys that had to be there till the end. Think about the Miami Heat. Think about the LA Lakers. We're talking about guys that had to be in that bubble, confined to that bubble, separated from their family, their loved ones, their normal life for 100 days. And yes, so just about 100 days. 100 days, guys, of being secluded, of being separated from the rest of the world, being separated from the rest of your life completely. Now you're asking them to do it. When does the league end? The league ends potentially around May 16th, May 15th, something around there. We're talking about, guys, we're still only in mid-January. We're talking about over 120 days, more or less. 120 days, you're asking these guys, these professional athletes to, seclude themselves from the rest of the world, to separate themselves from the rest of their family. It's like they already sacrifice so much, but obviously they get paid for that. But I think this pushes it a little too far. I agree with Gil that I don't think that the bubble is a viable option. I think that the NBA, unfortunately, is going to have to deal with it, kind of like the NFL and yes, MLB and MLS did. They're going to have to realize that, you know what, the 2020-2021 season is going to be a season like none other. It's going to be a season that will carry an asterisk, to say it that way. It will carry an asterisk. I hate to say it to the NFL, or I hate saying it about the NFL and the eventual Super Bowl champions, but let's call a spade, guys. I said it about the LA Lakers, and I maintain that, and I say it about whoever is going to win. I mean, the LA Dodgers, and I'm going to say it about the Super Bowl as well. The Super Bowl, whoever wins the Super Bowl title, not that they don't deserve credit, but it has to carry an asterisk, guys, because it's a season like none other. There's teams that were handcuffed. There are teams that just had an unfair advantage.
And in that
COVID-19 season, the champion is COVID-19.
And in that sport in particular, the taking away a home field is a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Ask the Seattle Seahawks about that.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, that just adds to the point. I think that the NBA, they're going to have to push through this as best as they can. Adam Silver is really going to have to continue. He has no hair to lose, so that's a plus. But they're just going to have to deal with it. Simple as that. They're going to have to deal with it. They're going to have their struggles, and they're going to have to know that this is a season that they're all going to want to forget.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you both. I don't think it's time to even talk about the bubble, and that's why I gave you guys my my option. Like, I think they will have to expand, the roster. Like Yuri said, I understand the product might not be that good, but you know what? This is a disadvantage that every team's going to end up having eventually. You know what? Every team's going to be affected by it. So they're going to end up playing with like second or third tier guys that were probably not even in the roster at the beginning of the season. So, you know what? I think that's where we are. And if they want to actually play the games, that's what's going to have to happen.
It may be, but let's also keep in mind that not every team has the talent available in their farm systems, in their minor leagues. That they don't all have parity like they do in the NFL, for example. So we'll see, guys. Moving on, and I gotta move over to football, and gotta kind of do a combination of the NFL and college football. After Alabama's blowout win over Ohio State Monday night, legendary coach Nick Saban won his record-setting 7th national championship, Saban's 6th title at Alabama. His first was with LSU. And as far as coaches go, there aren't many that can compare resumes with Saban, unless, of course, you're talking about New England's very own Bill Belichick, which happens to be Nick Saban's former mentor. So all that, keep that into consideration. It begs the question, at the end of the day, who is the GOAT? Who is the real GOAT? Belichick versus Saban. I'm gonna send it your way. What do you got? Who do you got at the helm when it comes to the coach of coaches in the as far as football goes?
Easy, man. Without a doubt, the mentor. I personally compare my way of comparing success is simple. You switch each other's job and put them in each other's position. Then you ask yourself this question: how will Bill Belichick do in the college rankings? And I honestly believe that Bill Belichick will do well in college. I really think he would. We already know the answer for Nick Saban. He didn't do too well when he went to the NFL. We know after winning his first title with LSU, he went to Miami. 2 seasons in Miami, had problems with some of the players. He didn't do too well, and that's why he went back to college. So you know what? That's why I believe that definitely Bill Belichick is the GOAT, because he will, he has done well in the NFL, and he still has a long way to go. I really think Bill Belichick might still win 2 or 3 more Super Bowl titles. You know what? Nick Saban too. But I really
2 or 3 more.
Bill Belichick,
68.
Yeah, he could still win 2 or 3 more. All right, laugh at me, guys, but you know what? He might still do it. Keep laughing though. All right, we'll talk in a few years about that. But anyway, that's my opinion. I don't think that Nick Saban will do well in the NFL. He already proved it, as I said. Even if he got another chance, I don't think he would. And I definitely think Bill Belichick will do well in college. That's my opinion.
Hey Gil, yes, it's true. Belichick is the mentor, and he has the rings to prove it. He has 6 of them, but Nick Saban has now 7 championships. And yes, it's true. It's a different level of leagues, but there's a lot to be said about Saban. And hey, a lot of people consider that he is the creme de la creme when it comes to coaches. What do you think?
I mean, look, I'm not taking anything away from Nick Saban. He's a fantastic coach, but I think it's absolutely asinine to compare him to Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has been in 9 Super Bowls. He's won 6 of them, and he does this in a salary cap league that promotes parity and is built to promote parity. He's not just recruiting kids and sitting on their couch and doing all that stuff, which, look, I'm sure it's hard on its own and everything else, but these are professional players, professional egos, people getting paid. They're not impressionable young men that you can just form and say what you want with them. And also, I agree with Omar, what he said. Saban couldn't hang in the NFL. That 15-17 record it's going to hang over his head. And I think at a certain point, 6 wins, it's the same damn 4 teams in the freaking college football playoffs every year anyways. What do you have to prove? Come back to the NFL and try to prove how great of a coach you are. Do it at the NFL. Do it at that level so that you get the proper respect. There's no doubt. I don't think it's even an argument. He's the best college coach of all time. But with all respect to Bear Bryant and all the other great college coaches, but his record speaks for itself. But do it in the NFL, and then we can talk at that point. But and this brings me to another thing, guys, because I know we were texting about college football and everything else. College football to me is incredibly boring, incredibly predictable, and an inferior product. I can't. Anyways, that's my thought on that.
I agree with you. I agree with you every point, pretty much.
You know what? I hate to do it because I kind of feel bad for the great Nick Saban, but yeah, we're all on the same page, guys. I mean, the fact of the matter is, listen, guys, let's be honest. They're both the best the best in their own leagues. Let's be honest. No other college coach can compare to Nick Saban. No other coach can compare to Bill Belichick. They are the best, the best that they have to offer. But yeah, the mentor, in my opinion, is the best. Now it's actually pretty cool that Nick Saban, Bill Belichick was Saban's mentor, because you see it. You see the similarities in them. They're both defensive gurus. They're both defensive driven. They both seem to be annoyed. Like whenever you see them on camera, whenever you see them dealing with the media, they both seem to be just annoyed to have to deal with the media. They both hate the media. They're also both two of the most beloved, but at the same time, two of the most hated coaches in their respective leagues. You can see the similarities between these two, but you took the arguments right out of my mouth, Gil. Belichick has to do it with stubborn egos, stubborn grown men who already have established themselves in careers, know what they want, and yes, in a league that yes, absolutely promotes parity. He has made a mockery of a league that is built for parity. He's completely made a mockery out of that. Whereas Saban, on the other hand, let's be honest, guys, Saban can pick whoever he wants. He just, when it comes to it, he just goes and picks whoever he wants. He picks the best of the best and leaves the whatever's left to the rest of the coaches in the college world. So seeing that Belichick has got to deal with different material per se, I agree. There is no comparison. Bill Belichick, to me, is absolutely the GOAT.
Have you guys seen the documentary, the Belichick?
We agree.
On HBO, I believe it was on. Great documentary going into the minds of those two guys and just hearing them talk football. It's really, really, really good.
I did see that. I don't know if you noticed Belichick asking Saban questions about a certain defense and how he runs it. Pretty much, asking Saban for advice.
Yeah, and that was fascinating too. Just hearing also, there's definitely an intimidation factor, right? Because Nick Saban says in that documentary, he goes, "You're one of the few coaches that calls me and asks my opinion on my players." There's very few coaches that do that, which is crazy to me because you have the premier college football program with studs coming out of it every year, and you don't have pro coaches and scouts calling you up, except for somebody has a relationship with you. So, funny story about that documentary. My girlfriend, my now fiance, forever thought that it was Belichick and Saban.
Sabana.
Nick Saban.
Well, guys, we've reached the final segment here of the show where we give the abrazo or chancletazo. That is a hug or a spanking for those of you that are non-Spanish speaking. And, let's start off with, I forget who I said was going to start off today. With Yuri, I said I was going to start off with you, right?
Did you? I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. Let's start off with Omar. Oh, Yuri's talked a lot today. Let's go with Omar.
All right,
What do you have this week?
The talking head has spoken.
That's right. You know what? I'm actually going to end this episode with Tres Leches with the same topic we started today, talking about the NBA and the Brooklyn Nets. But I will wrap it up with a chancletazo. And this goes to Kyrie Irving for his continuous egotistical attitude. Yuri Gil, you guys tell me, if you guys one day woke up and decided, you know what? I don't feel like going to work today. I'm just not going to call my boss. Do you guys really think that will fly here in Boston and over there in Miami or LA, wherever Gil is this week? Heck no, that will never fly anywhere, right? So to make things worse, the NBA now is investigating, like Gil said during the first topic, now is investigating Kyrie for being at a big party with a lot of his family, smiling, chilling, wearing no mask. And you know what? Nothing has changed with Kyrie. That me attitude has not changed from Boston, Cleveland, and now to Brooklyn. And I don't think it's ever going to change. And for that, he gets a big chancletazo from me.
Hey, talking head. First of all, I don't know what the heck Kyrie Irving did to Omar, but dude, he has hated Kyrie for so long. How often do we got to stop him? Like, yo, dude, slow down on Kyrie. He hates Kyrie. I hear you, brother. I hear you. But that just, it's obvious. And the second thing is,
I don't have the heart.
Forget these scratch tickets.
To anybody.
I was going to say, forget these scratch tickets.
Man.
Yeah, obviously. Forget those scratch tickets.
I just don't like people with that type of attitude. That's all.
What are you doing with the scratch tickets?
I was going to say, no, forget those scratch tickets. I got to go play the lottery because when was the last time that he gave a chancletazo? When was the last time he gave a
right?
I was just going to say that. He was like,
let's go play the lottery.
Yeah, he's like the Cal Ripken of abrazos here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, social distance. I can't give no abrazos right now.
Only Kyrie Irving gets a chocolatazo from Omar Cabrera. Only Kyrie.
That's right.
Yuri, what do you got this week?
All right, guys, I got to go. If I may, I have a chocolatazo and an abrazo because I'm that kind of guy. I'm going to go, first of all, I'm going to give a big, huge, yes, I got one too, chocolatazo to the dating app Bumble. Bumble, seriously, just a huge injustice. I cannot believe, I don't know if you guys heard this story about poor Talia Paris. Talia Paris from LA, 24 years old, has been denied her account on Bumble because apparently she is too hot. She is too hot. Talia just happens to be a former Playboy model. And she went through this relationship where she found out that her longtime boyfriend was actually married. So, that was destroyed. And she was actually single for 4 years, decided to go on Bumble because she just wants to be a normal girl like she is. And, me as every responsible, media member or whatever, I had to do my research. So I researched Talia Paris, and she's absolutely a normal girl. She deserves her Bumble account. So Bumble, big chocolate to you. I'll look you up, Talia, if you get a Bumble account. Look me up. In a more serious note.
You're gonna write a strongly worded letter to Bumble?
Absolutely. I'm so disappointed in Bumble. In a more serious note, guys, and you guys know this, a big abrazo to a legend. We lost a legend this past week in the baseball world, in the world of sports. And I'm talking about, of course, Tommy Lasorda. 93 years young, Tommy Lasorda. And I do say 93 years young because he was absolutely young at heart, young at spirit till the end. I get the chance to meet Tommy on several occasions, got a chance to interview him on several occasions. And every time that, I know that it's easy to talk fondly about people after they die, after they're gone. But Tommy Lasorda is one of those guys that if you met him, if you dealt with him, you couldn't have a bad impression about Tommy Lasorda. He was passionate about the game of baseball. I mean, he could talk baseball with you for hours. That's all he wanted to talk about. But he was just genuinely a nice guy, a good guy. I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. The first time I met him and first time I interviewed him was actually a week before his 80th birthday. A week before his 80th birthday, had him on the air. I was supposed to have him for half of an inning during the broadcast. He ended up staying with me for 3 innings. 3 innings. He did 3 innings of baseball play-by-play and color analyst with me, and just had a blast. At the end of that broadcast, he was like, "And I expect to see you at my 80th birthday party." Tommy Lasorda, rest in peace, my man. Love you.
It's a great story. Great story. And certainly a guy who's a great ambassador for baseball as well. And one of the best sound bites in the history of sound bites, where I have never, ever, since the manager ever told a pitcher to throw anybody, nor will I ever. And if I ever did, I certainly would make him throw it a freaking he didn't say freaking though, 130 hitter like Lefebvre, freaking Bavaco, who couldn't hit water, he fell out of a freaking boat.
He was definitely passionate about his baseball.
Amazing. Definitely will be missed. Going with a big abrazo to Methuen, Massachusetts' own Calvin Kattar. Valley represent, right? I'm a Lawrence guy. He's from Methuen, right next door there. He'll be fighting in the main event of the first UFC fight card on ABC this Saturday. Kattar will face former champion and one of the best mixed martial artists in the world, Max Holloway, in Abu Dhabi. So if you do tune in to ABC this Saturday, tune in a little early because they will be on a little earlier because of the time difference. Interesting note of this, guys. UFC and Abu Dhabi allowing a limited number of fans in attendance for this. It'll be the first of 3 UFC events in Abu Dhabi that will have live attendance. It marks the first March 7th of last year in Vegas. They're going to be allowed 2,000 people out of the 18,000 capacity socially distanced inside. So I think that'll be nice because it's a little weird watching any of these combat sports without the crowd and the fans. It's cool hearing the punches and hearing the kicks and everything else, but it's a lot of shouting with the coaches shouting, So it's definitely different.
I wonder why they never did what the WWE did and just put all the monitors around and have fans watch and be part of the crowd just with monitors. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it, though?
Yeah.
The Thunderdome.
Yes. I wonder why they didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess, Yuri, and this is just a guess. It's because it's not scripted.
That's true.
Well, guys, we've reached the end of this episode of Tres Leches Sportscast, our sports podcast, always brought to you in conjunction with El Mundo Boston. For Yuri Berenguer, for Mark Cabrera, I'm Gilly Matos. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Be sure to check us out on our social media pages. Have a great week.
All right, talking head.